I just spent the past week and a crazy amount of time redesigning my app. I felt like the original design didn't really fit who I was, and I know that's like super cliche, but it was too fancy for what I was liking. The gradients were cool, the color scheme was amazing, the UI was nice, but I just didn't feel like it fit me, you know? So I took on the challenge to really just try something new, which was a minimal, fun type of UI. And the app went from looking like this, so I'll probably show it on the screen, to something like this. And so what I like to do in this video is just share the things I did to make it minimal, you know, the different aspects that I followed and different principles that I did to make this app minimal. And look, I am the furthest thing away from being a designer. If you know you are a UI designer, I apologize for some of the bad principles that I followed, but I think I did a pretty good job. And before getting into the actual things I did to build out the minimal site, what is a minimal site? You know, I think it's quite important to talk about it before actually getting into it. I'm going to read what Google says, okay? A minimal design is a design style that embeds simplicity, clarity, and functionality in an app's user interface, UI, and user experience, UX. It should be UE, but I don't know why they say UX. Basically, it's a non-overcomplicated design that is clear and straight to the point. I think that's like the best way of putting it, and I think that's the simplest and most easiest way to follow. And now that we got that out of the way, okay, now that we've defined it, that's the thing, that's my definition of it, and that's how I am approaching a minimal app, okay? The first thing I did to build out this basic site, which, you know, we're gonna cover everything, is the actual font. I think this is actually more important than people say. Like, a font actually plays a really big role in how something looks, and what I used for that is a Poppins font. This is really popular amongst developers and amongst sites. I see this all over the place, and why I like it so much is that it's fun. I just went with it because it really stands out, and when it's bold, it's really loud without having to do much, right? And that's what I think we want with a text for a minimal app, something that can stand out and do everything on its own. Like, this is just screaming at you, right? That's exactly what you want. Same thing here with the logo. I just use text. I think that's the best way to do it. And okay, look, so you probably weren't clicking on this video expecting me to talk about fonts, and you know, I probably wasn't expecting you to. So let's actually get into like the actual intricacies. And the main thing I wanted to talk about, at least for minimal sites, is something called negative space. So as you can see on the app right now, things are spaced out. This is called regular spacing, where you see like the padding between this and this. That's regular space. However, amongst designers, and again, I am a super beginner when it comes to design, okay? There's something called negative space, which is a specific type of spacing you can have between text and items in between it. For example, this is negative space. This spacing over here, I manually put in that I wanted that spacing. And the art of negative spacing is doing it the right way so that everything fits in a nice and orderly manner. And although in an objective sense this is really dumb, and why would you focus on spacing, when it comes to minimal design where you're not using a bunch of different aspects, you have to focus on these things because they're doing all the talking, right? You can get away with like bad text or bad spacing when you have a bunch of different aspects, like a moving card, a beautiful animation, stuff like that. But when it's the text, you have to really focus on it because it's the only thing that people are going to be looking at. Negative space also goes for something within a card. Like, I had to manually and had to focus on the spacing between this text and the border over here. And so what I recommend you do, at least from what I have learned, is to just space things out. It's better to space things out than to keep everything tight knit. So when it comes to stuff in between text, it's better to have a bigger spacing than no spacing at all. Now, the next thing I did in terms of rebranding my app to be quote unquote minimal is to pick out a simple color scheme. All I literally had to do was look up something, and I found this cool article by a guy called Mark Liu. And the whole summary of this article that I really enjoyed was to pick 4 colors, one as the background, one as the primary color for your call to actions, one as your text color, and another primary color for like smaller text, you could say. If we go down here, he was using like green as his example, but the base would be the background. This green would be the button and call to actions. The base content would be the text, and the primary content would be like the text as well. And you can see here he gives an example, but basically what you can see here is I followed that exact step-by-step process. My main primary color for my call to action is this light purple, which I absolutely love. My base, my background color was this like dark gray, while my text was a lighter gray. And as an extra one, I just use a darker version of this gray. But you can see I'm just rotating in between all of them. The same thing goes for the courses part where the cards. I'm just following the same principles where I have the color of the primary as the main call to action, while the rest is this shade that I really like. Again, this part's not done, but you can see I'm just using the exact same shades with the exact same colors. I think if you're trying to go minimal, you have to step away from using a bunch of different colors and just sticking to a couple that you will like and used throughout the entire app. And personally, I've preferred this a lot more than usual, only because it's simpler and it's way less of a headache to worry about all these different colors. When you just have a couple, it's just so much easier to manage. And the final main change I did for the quote unquote minimal app is the actual clear call to action. When I was looking at a bunch of different apps and iOS apps that have this minimal design, like one's called Stoic, they are just focused on showing you the product and being super clear about what they sell. Like, it's not like they have 20 pages describing their apps. They typically just have one main page describing the product very clearly and very nicely, and then a way to buy the product. And before this, right, I had like 20 pages of just random shit. I had a settings page, I had another description page, I had an admin page for people to check out, I had a roadmap page of, like, you know, the actual developer roadmap, just a bunch of different shit that didn't really need to be there. But now, right, I just have a logout button over here, I have the testimonials, which should go down here, and I have a courses page. It's literally just 2 pages. And I think once you're able to mix all these together with a nice thick font, a limited amount of pages, just simple pages, and a clear call to action, a nice color scheme, as well as the negative space and proper spacing and alignment, you put yourself in a position to have a really nice minimal app that, in my opinion at least, stands out better than any type of app today. It's a real trend, and I'm not usually like a UI guy, but I really like this and I've been really enjoying it. But yeah, these are just the things that I have learned. I know there's a lot more to UI and a lot more to minimal design, but at least for now, you know, I'm learning, I'm really enjoying it, and hopefully I'll get better at this because I've really loved it. But yeah, if you like the video, then like the video. If you want to check out the site, then I'll leave it down below also. Happy coding, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.